Good evening and welcome to News at 8. My name is John Jimmy Musimbi and this newscast starts now. The government has begun undertaking the renovation and expansion of Kambuga Hospital in Kanungu district. The health facility was built in the 1960s and many of its structures have fallen apart and needed a facelift. The government allocated funds for the renovation works, which were launched by the Minister of Health, Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng, who was accompanied by Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, the Minister of ICT and National Guidance. Dr. Baryomunsi is also the MP for Kinkizi East, where Kambuga Hospital is located. We bring you more of this.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng, officiated at the groundbreaking ceremony for the renovation and expansion of Kambuga Hospital in Kanungu district in southwestern Uganda.
I will hand it over to the minister. Make sure you share it with all your members. Let all of them read, because I don't want the Bachiga to come to my office.
Dr. Acheng cautioned the contractors against shadow work and also warned them that unnecessary delays in completing the work will lead to penalties. She called on Kanungu district leadership to supervise the project since they represent the people who are the main beneficiaries of the hospital.
The UPDF Engineering Brigade is not going to close the hospital and begin construction. No, that is not going to happen. It should not happen. They are going to work in phases. Patients should continue coming. We cannot deny patients services.
The area member of parliament, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, who is also the Minister of ICT and National Guidance, thanked the Kambuga Hospital medical workers for attending to him in January 2023. Dr. Baryomunsi was admitted to the facility before he was lifted to Murago National Referral Hospital.
I want to thank the doctors, the health workers of Kambuga, and all the people of Kanungu. You sent me messages, the chairman sent me messages, the FPs, everybody was concerned. But I am now very healthy.
Following Dr. Baryomunsi's admission to Kambuga Hospital, social media was awash with pictures of the health facility showing it in a terrible state. The Kanungu district leaders commended government for allocating funds to renovate the hospital, saying that it has been grappling with a lot of challenges since it serves a large population and even people from neighboring DRC.
Now, the opposition in Parliament, led by Matthias Simpoga, has presented an alternative opposition budget of 48.9 trillion shillings to Parliament for consideration in fulfillment of its constitutional mandate. In the national budget estimates now before Parliament for consideration, the government provided a total resource envelope of 49.9 trillion shillings. In the alternative opposition budget, emphasis has been put on domestic financing with a target of 32 trillion shillings expected to be collected by the Uganda Revenue Authority.
The Shadow Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Mwanga Chivumbi, presented the alternative opposition budget of 48.9 trillion Uganda shillings in a well-attended budget speech. In the total opposition alternative resource envelope of Uganda shillings 48.9 trillion, they look at URA collecting Uganda shillings 27.831 trillion. They also look at recoveries from tax exemptions to collect Uganda shillings 4 trillion. Recoveries by checking corruption amount to Uganda shillings 1 trillion. They also hope for a budget support of Uganda shillings 3.2 trillion and external borrowing at 6.716 trillion. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, the president of the National Unity Platform Party, the leading opposition party in Parliament, listened into the alternative budget presentation among the many guests that included the IGG, Olive Betty Kamia.
Implementing these proposals requires a change in the allocation of resources, so we must cut spending in areas that do not necessarily contribute to the well-being of our people. We should not continue wasting money buying tear gas and killing machines, because these are just for terrorizing our people.
According to the opposition, government officials have taken advantage of borrowing, especially debt rollover, to embezzle funds. These asked the Inspectorate of Government to take interest in all requests by government to borrow funds from all sources, locally and from international lenders.
If I'm a Minister of Finance, there will be no law that exempt any Ugandan from not paying tax. Because if just Parliament paid, our taxes in a financial year will be 100 billion. So every constituency will have the 100 you need for the road fund.
The alternative budget prioritizes and allocates Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries 1.49 trillion shillings, Ministry of Health dockets 2.952 trillion shillings, Education and Sports 460 billion, Gender, Labour and Social Development 660 billion, Lands, Housing and Urban Development pocket 193 billion, Works and Transport 3.52 trillion, Energy and Mineral Development 1.410 trillion, Trade, Industry and Cooperatives is allocated 1.453 trillion, Water and Environment 90 billion, Foreign Affairs 238 billion, Public Service goes away with 604 billion, the President's pockets 825 billion, KCCA moves with 2.075 trillion, Internal Affairs goes away with 1.401 trillion, Defense and Veteran Affairs pocket 2.127 trillion, Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities 695 billion, East African Community Affairs pockets 9.089 billion, Justice and Constitution Affairs and the Judiciary pocket 1.751 trillion. The opposition expressed concern over what they called financial indiscipline by some ministers and implementing officials, which they blamed for the staggering economy.
For as long as you operate your economy on solvency and not on liquidity as a paradigm, you will not go very far. Solvency is economic kaunyem. You know economic kaunyem is for undisciplined economy, undisciplined people who are likely not to pay back. They say, please reduce your debt to GDP debt ratio.
Uganda's budget estimates continue to grow each financial year, but the economy continues to grapple with inflation now at 10.04% and commercial bank interest rates nearly hitting 30%. The opposition proposes rationalized representation as a means to reduce government expenditure.
Some people don't need will not be in this parliament. Parliament will be for a purpose, because under this arrangement, you nominate your presidential candidate and you're going to work for that candidate.
The opposition says it's up to the government to pick a leaf from the alternative budget for the betterment of Uganda.
Thank you, Ramson, for that report. Now, moving on, the Bishop of Namirembe Diocese, the Right Reverend Wilberforce Chityo Lualira, has called on both teachers and students of Luzira Secondary School to reject immorality, which he says has taken root especially amongst the young people. He appealed to them to put to use the word of God in their lives. Bishop Lualira, who was addressing a congregation at the school after leading a confirmation service, thanked the school administration for dedicating the school to God and also called on the students to utilize the chance to excel in their examinations. Now, I was at Luzira Secondary School and I filed this report.
Amen. Confirm and strengthen, O Lord.
The Bishop of Namirembe Diocese, Right Reverend Wilberforce Chityo Lualira, who led the confirmation service at Luzira Secondary School, cautioned the students and staff against falling for the misleading messages of those who have deviated the gospel, which he says is unfortunately taking shape in the education system.
We have seen many people preaching, teaching, and guiding and counseling. It is high time you sit and reflect on what they teach and the guidance they pretend to be giving. We have heard stories nowadays that, watch out, even in the church, we have wrong elements. Other people have been planted there just to promote whatever they want. And many of us are now realizing that in some areas, people have been planted to promote, to erode our values, our norms, and our identity. So watch out, brethren and dear administrators of this school and many other schools. Watch out and be cautious to who stands before these young men to teach and guide as far as spiritual matters are concerned.
The bishop emphasized for all and sundry to yearn for God's spirit and wisdom in order to be able to detect such false propaganda that aims at blindfolding the faithful.
Without wisdom, without the guidance from God, it might be very, very difficult to detect even these promoters, as you have heard these days. Watch out, especially for those who come advocating for gay rights.
The headmaster of Luzira Secondary School thanked Bishop Lualira for the enlightening message and pledged to put it in practice.
So I'd like to appreciate our Lord the Bishop for that wonderful message. We shall continue building on it so that it pushes us even to greater horizons, to try and demystify all the wrong teachings of homosexuality, gayism, and the like.
The bishop was on a pastoral visit where he confirmed the 80 students of the school into the Anglican faith and urged them to cherish their faith and root their belief in Christ for all the days of their lives. John Jimmy Musimbi, Church of Uganda Family TV, News at 8. Now, Kampala Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago has asked President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to increase the KCCA budget if Kampala Capital City Authority is to meet its demand of a cleaner city. Lukwago made the appeal while handing over a number of trucks for garbage collection, sepal, emptiers and tractors to the leaders of Kampala's 5 divisions. The event was held at Naguru Katale Primary School in Nakawa Division.
Garbage collection, disposal and management is one of the challenges that continue to plague Kampala City, although there have been various programs to address it. However, a move has been made in the right direction to address the problem. KCCA has received 10 garbage trucks, 5 sepals and 5 tractors that were allocated to the leaders of the city's 5 division councils. The handover ceremony was attended by the Nakawa West MP, Kampala Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago, KCCA Executive Director Dorothy Kisaka, City Division mayors from various districts, and many others. Nakawa Division Mayor Paul Mugambi, who spoke on behalf of Kampala City Division mayors, was grateful for receiving the trucks, but expressed worry over meeting the costs to run the vehicles.
We express our gratitude for this big leap, for this big achievement of getting these garbage trucks. However, our fear is the issue of fuel, because even before we got these trucks, we've been grappling with the fuel. The few trucks that we had, about 2 or 3, are in service, old and dilapidated, but they have been trying, but they have faced a challenge of fuel. So with this new consignment of trucks, we don't want them to remain, tourist attractions.
KCCA Executive Director Dorothy Kisaka said that they plan to procure more of such vehicles to every parish in Kampala to solve the waste problem.
And the 10 trucks will go to the divisions for now. Each division will get 2 trucks. But going forward, it's a strategy of government that every parish will have its own cleaning vehicles and all the tools, so that the problem of garbage is resolved.
Kampala Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago, who presided over the handover of the vehicles, showed discontent about the low budget to KCCA by government, yet KCCA does a lot of work.
It's just a drop in the ocean because we really need quite a lot. We still have a long way to go, and the reason we are pushing that we should have a big budget. Unfortunately, sanitation and solid waste management are the least funded sectors in our city. And particularly with the sanitation, it's not institutionalized. We don't even have a single coin for sanitation. We are entirely relying on donors. We want to have a recycling plant at Dundu, Chitezi is full to capacity. It's no longer tenable, sustainable. So we need now to shift it to Dundu. But Dundu shouldn't be another Chitezi. We want that to be a state-of-the-art, modern recycling plant, and that's what we are working towards. And Mr. Museveni was here in Kampala a couple of days ago, and he talked about sanitation and said, where have you been all along? He said every 200 meters he wants a dustbin, but he has slashed our budget. He has not offered even a single coin. So we are going to burn our fingers. How are we going to fund this project? So that needs to be addressed. We need funding, more funding.
Lukwago noted that for the trucks to serve their intended purpose, there should be a clear budget for fuel and the remuneration of frontline workers. Nakawa MP Joel Senyonyi shares his view.
Akasente kano kajjanga katono ate ekyokubiri kajja leeti. Abo munnange bantu nga ffe bakozi nga ffe tubafeeko.
Now even maintenance is still a very big challenge. We don't even have fuel in the city. So that has got to be addressed. Again, the last thing is about our casual workers. Here we need to improve on their remuneration, on their welfare, and address the issues regarding their contracts. So
frontline workers.
Kisaka said that KCCA spent 5 billion shillings to purchase these vehicles, and each division is to receive 2 of them. She added that in the future, each of the 99 parishes in Kampala will get the truck because the moment KCCA collects 52% of the total garbage in Kampala.
Makerere University students have urged the government to review the education system to have more practical skills included in the syllabus. The students made the call during the Makerere at 100 Guild Dialogue organized by the 88th Guild government under the theme Nurturing Indigenous Investors in African Economies, a Step Towards Economic Independence and Liberation of African Nations, Uganda as a reference. The students showed dissatisfaction with the theoretical nature of education, which they argue has slowed down Uganda's socio-economic development. Joy Nablo has the details.
Can only have value for economic development if it is skilled. But the lesson is are the skills that we are creating within the education system illustrate the opportunities that we have. Because the stone of development is that countries begin by building what exists to go to what doesn't exist. So the kind of skills we are giving to our young people today demonstrate the potential to build. So if we talk about moving people from our country to high-value sectors, the skills we are imparting on our young people are capable of steering this transformation from a pure agrarian society to manufacturing and processing and services and so on and so forth.
The education system is primary, secondary, then tertiary forward. If given chance to go to the university level, I think that the universities should mainly emphasize on the practical part of it. Because that is why these whites have left us. A kid who is 13 years old has more expertise in what they do. They specialize way back in the beginning.
News at 8, very short break, but returns shortly after the commercial break. Do stay with us. Welcome back from that short commercial break. Now moving on, young people have been challenged to use the internet productively and not only gain from but also survive in the economy by creating jobs for themselves. The call was made during the National High-Level Conference on Digital Economy in Kampala, under the theme is Digital Economy, Real Economy for Uganda. Gloria Irankunda reports.
One of the participants at the conference noted that the digital era has made easier the operations in all fields, and he hopes to apply the newly acquired knowledge in his profession.
Can I teach my class online as we are trying to implement this digital economy of 2023? Because it starts with me, it starts with us.
The coordinator of Youth Advocacy Foundation Uganda, Yafu Akampalugaba, noted that unemployment will not be a problem if young people invest time in using the internet to look for online jobs and doing online businesses. He explained that the conference brings together like-minded young people to learn how to productively navigate online spaces.
The young people of this country should invest their time into finding out more opportunities that come with the digital transformation. They should learn to see what is going to develop them or even what is constructive in their lives, okay, so that they are able to even start earning for those who are at university even before they leave university.
Martin Mukama, a marketing specialist at Centenary Bank, urged the youth to embrace the opportunities available on digital platforms with a positive attitude to reap from them.
You need to first of all have the mindset that allows you to see the opportunities in the digital platform. Technology is open for everybody.
The Director, Research, Education and Advocacy, Inspector of Government, James Penyui, who represented the Inspector General of Government, Betty Kamia, explained that young people can use digital skills to expose crimes in their respective communities, adding that the current job market requires digital skills for youth to thrive.
Currently, in the market there, if you are to get employed, you must actually have knowledge, skill and expertise in digital world.
The head of marketing and head of students recruitment at Victoria University, Konani Businje, highlighted the need to study the constant changes in technology and adapt accordingly.
If you do not understand the dynamics of technology and the digital platforms, there's nothing much you can do. And that's the future. And that's why the way we teach students in universities right now, the things we teach, how we assess them. Nowadays, for an institution that is serious, you need to embrace the usage of technology.
The number of mobile connections in Uganda increased by 1.1 million between January 2020 and January 2021, according to the data portal report of 2021. Gloria Irankunda, Anaya Ainzabyona, Church of Uganda Family TV, News at 8.
Thank you, Anaya Ainzabyona and Gloria Irankunda. The Federation of Small and Medium-Scale Enterprises Uganda, FSME, in partnership with Bank of Uganda and Kampala City Traders Association, CASITA, have conducted a seminar for small businesses in a bid to empower them to benefit from COVID-19 recovery funds. On July 30th, 2021, President Yoweri Museveni announced that the government would establish a macro, small and medium enterprise fund to support businesses that were hit hard by COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns. The fund would be handled by the Ministry of Finance and Bank of Uganda.
The COVID-19 Recovery Fund failed to register reasonable uptake, with only shillings 6.58 billion disbursed to the targeted beneficiaries, the small and medium-scale enterprises, as of 31st December 2022, partially due to restrictive operational guidelines. The government would remit shillings 100 billion to the Bank of Uganda to capitalize it, which would be matched by at least 8 participating financial institutions, making a possible shillings 200 billion available for the onward lending to the small medium enterprises. Now over 300 small-scale traders across Uganda have turned up for training on what they need to have or to do to meet the criteria to access the recovery loans. The training was conducted by the Federation of the Small and Medium-Scale Enterprises Uganda in partnership with Bank of Uganda and Kampala City Traders Association, Uganda, which has since been expanded to have members from outside Kampala. Bank of Uganda and Kasita officials emphasized the need for training before the small-scale businesses access the credit.
Ekyali kiremeseza abantu bwe kutafuna information olusi bwe bagenda mu commercial banks ne banks nazo ezibayamba tebabanyonyola ku ssente zino kati kyobora tubayise bafune information entuufu bagende mu banka gye balina akawunti basabe nti nze njagala ssente zino Bank of Uganda zeeyogeddeko si kubawandala.
First of all, when you raise awareness like what we are doing today with Bank of Uganda and Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises, it can make the traders or the business community know exactly what does it necessitate to access this recovery fund. Because you find that most of the banks were discouraging most of our members to come to our offices so that we make recommendations to access these funds. So we are encouraging our members to make sure that we shall employ more staff, even to accompany them when they are going to access these loans, to make sure that they can benefit from this initiative.
Musoke Nagenda, the chairperson of Kasita, noted by the time the money was ready to be remitted to the SMEs, many would not meet the stringent terms and conditions. So Kasita resolved to work with Bank of Uganda to empower the small businesses.
Abantu kusokera ddala tubasomesa bategeere nti ssente zino gyeziri. Ensonga ey'okubiri okusomesa kuno tugenda kuwangula ekintu kimu. Twagala nnyo saali wagadde nnyo omusuubuzi ono oba ayagala okufuna ssente zino agende nga sekinnoomu twalizeeko emabega nga tujja tumugobererako tumuteekerako nga recommendation leeta n'okumuwamu ku bakozi baffe okutambula naye. Olw'ensonga bwe tugenda mu banka zino ezisinga tezaagala kutuwa ssente zino, banka esobola neyeekwasa kino n'oleeta buli kimu nga ate tokolifaayi. Abamu ne batuuka n'okutugamba ebyo byabufuzi, ssente teziriiyo naye leka tukuwe ezaffe. Naye ekyomukisa omulungi nti leero ababanka bonna tuli nabo tulabe baddemu ate okutubuzaabuza nti ssente teziriiyo.
John Walugembe, the Executive Director of the Federation of the Small and Medium Enterprises Uganda, said that some of the commercial banks that were contracted to handle recovery funds failed to do their job effectively, which led to the conflicts with their clients.
Kyetwagala okukola okuwulira kwe kuwulira nti abantu ssente bakola ki bazifuna. Kyova olaba mu kukuŋŋaana luno banka enkumi n'ebiri ne banks weeziri, banka ezisukka mu 6 weeziri wano kyekizireese kulaba nti batandika process ne ba SME bano. Ebyekwaso bikole ki bikendeere. Gwe oba ogamba nagenda mu banka ne bangoba kati leero tebakugobye banka weeri gendayo bakugobe nga tulaba tukiyingiremu okiwulire.
The funds were to be remitted to all small and medium enterprises at a discount of 10% and to be refundable in 2 months.
Uganda, with the good spirit that you have.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV, enriching lives.
Family is not just an important thing, it is everything, Michael J. Fox said. And as Candace Cameron said, the memories we make with our families are everything. Did you know that not all households are homes? Making a family in this dynamic era can quite be challenging. You know what I'm talking about. Church of Uganda Family TV brings you the Family Talk Show every Friday, where we host different people to share their experience, their knowledge, and counsel on how we can collectively build strong families. Be sure to watch with me, your host, Claire Bwenje, Family Talk Show.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV, enriching lives.
Moving on to other parts of the world, from Kenya, as Miola Umoja One Kenya coalition party leader Raila Odinga has now alleged an assassination attempt on his life during Thursday's anti-government protests in Nairobi. The opposition chief, who addressed the media in Karen, claimed his car was shot at 7 times with live bullets. This and the withdrawal from key positions by the M23 rebels in eastern DRC, plus more from our African News Wrap up next. Rebels in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo were still holding strategic positions on Thursday, the day M23 militants were supposed to leave under a regional peace initiative. The withdrawal of M23 rebels is now going to take place this Friday, according to the commander of the East African Community Force. Since June last year, that the town of Bunagana, a commercial crossroads on the Ugandan border, has been under rebel control. Jean Muhire, a resident in Bunagana, says that customs are still closed and famine is getting too much and worse, and it's good that these Ugandan soldiers were coming in. They would like the Congolese government and M23 to hold talks so that a solution could be found. March 30th was supposed to mark the end of the withdrawal of all armed groups, according to a timetable adopted in mid-February by the East African Community. The M23 has announced its withdrawal from certain localities, but these announcements have been described as a diversion by the Congolese army. Also, Vice President Kamala Harris will arrive in Lusaka, Zambia on Friday for the final stop of her week-long trip across Africa. She's expected to see the new airport that's doubled in size. Rather than a symbol of promising local development, it's a reminder of China's deep influence there. Beijing financed the project, one of many that has expanded its footprint in a booming continent that is rich in natural resources. The global rivalry between the United States and China has been a recurring backdrop for Harris's journey, and nowhere has that been more apparent than Zambia and her previous stop in Tanzania. Besides the airport, China built a 60,000-seat stadium in Lusaka, plus roads and bridges around the country. Zambia is on the hook for all of the developments with billions of dollars in debt. Tanzania is a major trading partner with China. The developments have alarmed Washington, and President Joe Biden's administration is worried that Africa is slipping further into Beijing's sphere of influence. And from neighboring Kenya, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party leader Raila Odinga has now alleged an assassination attempt on his life during Thursday's anti-government protests in Nairobi. The opposition chief, addressing the media in Karen, claimed his car was shot at 7 times with live bullets in what he believes was a direct attempt to take him out. Mr. Odinga hence hit out at the President William Ruto-led government, accusing it of taking the country to pre-colonial times with what he termed as attacks against peaceful demonstrations, merely exercising their rights. He further slammed foreign nations for allegedly funding the conflict instead of solving it by force, and at the very least standing on the fence and not taking sides. The former Prime Minister further condemned attacks on the press witnessed during Thursday protests, where at least 4 journalists from different media houses were hospitalized after reportedly being brutalized by both goons and police officers while covering the demonstrations. He also alleged a plot hatched by senior government officials to raid property owned by former President Uhuru Kenyatta in what would have been reminiscent of the invasion of the ex-head of state's Northlands farm on Monday.
Sports, proudly sponsored by
Aquafina. The global world-class drinking water is finally in Uganda. Taste the enriched and pure perfection of Aquafina.
Now in our sports news, Manchester United is indebted to the tune of £969.6 million through bank borrowings and outstanding transfer fees with associated payments. According to new figures, the club released their second quarter results to 31st December on Thursday. This and more, plus the fate of South Africa's Oscar Pistorius, follow in this sports news roundup.
Manchester United owe £969.6 million through a combination of gross debt, bank borrowings and outstanding transfer fees, with associated payments according to new figures. The club released their second quarter results to 31st December on Thursday. Unlike previous years, there was no investors' call afterwards as a result of the ongoing strategic review. The review itself is centered on how to meet the club's long-term capital investment needs, specifically for improvements at Old Trafford and the club's Carrington training ground, and it is being stressed that it is not due to any issues with short-term liquidity. Nevertheless, the amount owed to the club has grown. While the principal debt remains at $650, a change in the exchange rate meant the club owed £535.7 million compared to £477.1 million at the same point in the previous year. In addition, £206.2 million has been taken from a rolling credit facility, with another £227.7 million owed in outstanding transfer fees. The club did have £31 million in cash or equivalent, but the overall sum remains just short of £1 billion. Oscar Pistorius, the former Paralympian who murdered his girlfriend Riva Steenkamp, has been denied parole in South Africa. The 36-year-old had been seeking early release 10 years after the Valentine's Day shooting. But the prison authorities said he had not served enough time and they would consider the matter again next year. Ms. Steenkamp's mother, who appeared before the parole board, had opposed any move to free him. The six-time Paralympic gold medalist has expressed his deep remorse for killing his girlfriend in 2013, but continues to maintain he shot her by mistake, believing she was a robber. June Steenkamp said she didn't believe Oscar is remorseful or rehabilitated before the hearing at Atteridgeville Prison, a low-security facility outside the city of Pretoria. Prisoners become eligible for parole in South Africa after serving half of their sentence. Correspondents say confusion over the timing of his sentence comes as he was sentenced twice and spent time under house arrest. Pistorius was initially found guilty of culpable homicide, but on appeal by the prosecutor, he was convicted of murder on the grounds that he must have known his actions, shooting 3 times through a locked bathroom door in his Pretoria home would lead to death of whoever was behind. Russian
Sports, proudly sponsored by
Aquafina. The global world-class drinking water is finally in Uganda. Taste the enriched and pure perfection of Aquafina.
Thank you so much for being part of News at 8 tonight. My name is John Jimmy Musimbi. Do have yourself a good night.